Okay, we're live. I'm Michael Martinez of Reflective Dynamics, and I'm the principal author for the SEO Theory blog. And I'm here with Kent Yunk of Roaring Pajamas SEO. Hello, Kent.
Hi, Michael. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I finished off some projects today, so I feel good.
That's good news.
Going to get some money.
Nice, nice. That's
Yeah,
always a good thing.
it's always a good thing. So, how are you doing?
I'm really good. I'm really good. Been a little busy this weekend, and sort of challenged because one of the things that I've been thinking about and looking into is, I've got all these SEO tools, right? You got Majestic, you've got Link Research, you've got SEMrush, you've got there's other things like URI Valet. I mean, there's all these tools.
Okay.
And I know that it feels a little bit like really not understanding what the value each tool brings, because they all do something slightly different. I mean, some people are absolutely committed to the Moz tool. Some people are absolutely committed to SEMrush or LinkDex, or there's just so many tools out there. I think I probably get a call every other week from a different SEO tool vendor. So I'm a little frustrated, and I would really like to sort of talk through with you some of the things that you and I look to for a really good SEO tool, and how do you verify the data? Is that possible to verify the data? It's just an interesting challenge, I think, for everybody to sort of find and then use a tool that delivers both value and some level of accuracy. That makes sense?
That makes sense, yeah.
So I was hoping that we could chat about that and sort of talk through some of the issues that come up with having SEO tools. One great example is, so I have a tool called Advanced Web Ranking, and in its original form, it was a desktop app. So you'd run it on your desktop, and it would help you to find or verify rankings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a rank check tool. Part of the problem with that, though, is when you have a rank check tool, and it's running from your IP, if you ping too many, ping the Google search too many times, you eventually get
Blocked.
Basically blocked or excluded from being able to continue doing that. So then there was this workaround that they provided, and then which meant you had to spend more money to pay for the workaround, and so it's been interesting. So now they've gone from the desktop software model to now it's a subscription model where it's running off of their servers. So you don't have the same issues. They handle
Right. They have
the IP blocking issue. Right. So so it's interesting. So each of these tools has had to evolve to figure out how they can, number one, check your rankings, and then they end up partnering with other tools. So for instance, if the tool then includes things like links, and link sort of validation of those links, they combine that data, but they usually use a partner for doing something like that. So they'll use somebody like a Moz or a Majestic. And then of course you've got, some of them have an auditing tool built in, so it like figures out issues with sites, and so it's just sort of this. They're all trying to move to being a one-size-fits-all product. It's just interesting. I find it fascinating to watch how they've evolved and how they're eventually going to shake out. I mean, some of them are clearly not going to make it and may have to merge with someone else to, get that.
They would all go out of business overnight if the SEO industry adopted standards.
Really?
Well, unless you get a bunch of idiots in there to form the standards committee, yeah, because with real scientific standards, it would become obvious that all these SEO tools are nothing but a waste of money.
But people want to know what's happening with their site.
Well, I can make up numbers and give you just as good information as what you're getting from these SEO tools. In fact, I did that once. I wrote an article on SEO theory a year or two ago, and I put some charts in it. And I just made up the numbers and stuff off the top of my head. And I said, I'll explain the charts down at the bottom of the article. So you get down to like the lower third of the article, and I said, so where did all that come from? I made it up. It's bullshit. And people were arguing with me. They're going, but those numbers, they look like what our research is showing us. And I can believe that because they were intuitive numbers. I see the same trends that everybody else does, but I just made it up. I have argued against SEO tools many times through the decades, and yet I still use them like everybody else. And that kind of sends a mixed signal. But I think, you're right. The big guys are all trying to become universal SEO tools, and that's never going to work. I mean, they will certainly have sales and customers, and people will go to their conferences, and they'll believe all the bullshit that they put out there. But they will never be accurate, reliable, all-in-one SEO tools. That's not possible. And the basic reason it's not possible is they're not using the data that they need to be using. They need to be using data provided by Bing and Google. And they don't get access to data provided by Bing and Google. They can do rank checking, which back 10, 12 years ago, that was kind of interesting. Everybody got the same rankings, so you could do the rank checking. But now we all see different rankings. I can take my smartphone and run a search on Google and compare the results to what I see on my laptop, and they're going to be different for every query. So, and that's just coming off the same, if I connect to my router through the Wi-Fi, that's the same IP address. And Google just goes, you have a different platform, different operating system. I'm going to show you something different because I'm assuming that you have a different intent. Sometimes Google is right, my intent is different, and sometimes Google is completely wrong. They're probably wrong more often than they're right, but they show you different stuff. That's the point. And so rank checking is really not telling us anything. On the other hand, you can't go into Bing and Google Webmaster Tools and look at your ranks because all they do is give you average ranks. Well, what good are average ranks? They're not telling you what the context of the rankings are. So the only good thing that we can get from anybody's ranking reports, whether it's Bing, Google, or a third party, is are your aggregate rankings improving or are they declining? And to that extent, any SEO tool is as good as any other. If they can show you a trend that is confirmable, verifiable with some other SEO tool, then you either have a problem or you're doing something right.
Well, and answer me this though. I mean, if you use Webmaster Tools data where it shows that your average rank and your query volume and your clicks, right? If you have a tool that basically just takes that data in and shows it to you, that's going to give you as much of a indication about what's going on with Google at least.
I know that some of the tools do that, and I also know that people are using the APIs to pull the data down for custom or bespoke tools. But there are a number of issues with that. First of all, there are no standards. So whose analytical methods are right or best? I don't have an opinion. Okay. Secondly, if you have a large traffic website, you can't get enough data, even with the APIs.
I believe that. I believe that there's always going to be a limit, certainly from Webmaster Tools or with Google Analytics, because Google Analytics uses filtering and sampling, and so yeah, your data sets are always being truncated.
Yeah.
So sometimes it'll say it's based on 6% of the total traffic. 6%. How is that statistically relevant?
It's not. It's just nonsense. And that's why I tell people, you're going to have to time slice and try and pull it down by the day. But even on the largest websites that I've worked on, and you've worked on some of those sites, that's not good enough. It's just you don't get enough data. If one day's worth of data is sampled, filtered, whatever, it's useless. And here, if you're trying to do a 90-day or God help you, a 365-day analysis, you need a whole data center to download all that stuff. Quinn Street had a data center when we worked for them, and I tried to do some SEO analyses. they had so much data that I couldn't find a tool that could work with it. And it was incredible. You know, what they had an in-house dashboard, as you know, that all the producers were using to track sales and things like that. But for SEO analysis, you and I were just pulling data wherever we could get it and kind of like eyeballing it.
Well, the opportunity model that I had, you know, you threw it into Excel and it croaked, right? And so we had to use SAS, and SAS it's a big data tool.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of get the data into a format that SAS can process, and then you can process it, and then, you know, all that stuff that basically killed Excel, it did in about 10 minutes. So I mean, you've got to have the right tools and have access to being able to format the data in a way that then you can process it and deliver it in a method that makes sense, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, Google's analytics tools don't make any sense at all. They're worthless as far as I'm concerned. This recent announcement, I think it was last week, that the search console now allows you to make sets. So if you have like 10 websites, you can put them all together in a set and aggregate all your query data. And I saw all these people online going, hey, this is great. Thanks a lot, Google. And all I could think of was, why would you want to do that? What possible value can you have from aggregating the data from multiple websites? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. There's nothing actionable that you're going to get out of it. I mean, whatever they think they're getting out of it is bizarre. Maybe they think they're going to get all these different queries that they can do something with, but since they won't know which sites are ranking for which queries, what's the point? And if I tried to combine our websites into something like that, we would run out of data. I mean, it would crush. We'd hit the limits. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, we don't have these mega 10 million visitor a month websites. We do have websites that are busy, and you know, some of them are already at the limit of what the search console can do for you. And now people want to take all this stuff and aggregate it. It's like, I don't understand. These people, I don't know what they think they're getting from that, but they're not getting anything that's going to help their SEO. I can guarantee you that. So.
Well, and so to that point, if somebody was going to use a tool, do you recommend they not purchase a tool, but just try to leverage Google
Well, what do they want
Analytics
to do with the tool? I mean, seriously. But Moz came out with this keyword research tool. I forget what they call it. And I went and I took a look at it. And basically, they're using the same data that Ubersuggest uses. You know, you can use Ubersuggest for free. You don't have to subscribe. And Moz, you know, they're selling a subscription to basically a tool that gives you the same results that Ubersuggest gets. And people are, you know, all happy about Moz. It's like, oh, great, this is a tool I've never seen before. And yet, Ubersuggest's been around for years. So, you know, if you want to do keyword research, which tool is going to be best for you? I mean, what is it that you want to accomplish with the tool? If you want to analyze your website, why are people constantly crawling their website? This was at a conference last week or this week where some presenter said you should always be crawling your website. And my reaction was, why? What is the point? They're looking for broken links or something. I mean, a simple 404 report would give you that. That comes right out of the server logs. These people do not know what they're doing. And you can, I mean, you know, if you want to crawl a website to see how responsive it is to a crawler, that's something. But it's going to add a load to the server. If you want to crawl a website to see how broken the links are, that's kind of a useful thing if you have reason to believe there are a lot of broken links. But if you're just fishing for those rare dead links, that's putting an extra strain on the server. So is that a worthwhile pursuit? I don't think so. I mean, I haven't run a crawl on a website for an SEO audit in years. That's just irresponsible, in my opinion, unless the client specifically says, I want you to do this. I mean, you go through the options. When you pitch a proposal to a client, you tell them, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, right? And they kind of like pick what they want you to do. And if they're not sure of how crawlable their website is, then it is kind of prudent to say, well, we can crawl the site. Okay, we can see how crawlable the site is and give you an estimate of what the search engines are finding. I've never had a client request that, because the clients that come to us are looking for very specific stuff. But there are people who just right out of the box, they say, well, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this. But they can't justify it. They don't have an explanation for why they're doing it. They're just doing it because they go to some conference, or they watch some video online, or read some blog where somebody says, wow, when you do an audit, you should do X, Y, and Z. And if you don't understand why you're doing X, Y, and Z, you shouldn't be doing X, Y, and Z. I mean, if you understand why you're doing it, even if you're convinced that you're probably going to find nothing, if you just feel like that's the best thing for that client to run that tool, then you should do it. But if you're doing it because all these other guys said they're doing it, that's the worst possible reason in the world, in my humble opinion.
Okay, but that still begs the question, right? Here's somebody, let's just say that they're not that fluent in SEO, but they do have to answer to someone, right? And the person that they're answering to wants to see rank, and they want to see performance against certain KPIs that are SEO related. They need a tool to do that.
They do. If you take the job, you have to fulfill the requirements. And I don't have any preferences for SEO tools. Any rank checker will give you just as good data as any other rank checker. And that's because the rankings are all bogus. So if you need to report ranking data to somebody, what I would do is dig into the data and look for trends. Because, you know, if you see upward trends here and downward trends there, that's where you're going to be able to earn some brownie points with your boss, right? If you can fix this. So if you've got an SEO tool that's not reporting any problems, and you think there's an SEO tool out there that will report problems, I don't think that's a good reason to switch tools. If somebody more experienced comes along and says, well, you're probably going to get better results from this other tool, then I can see how a lot of people are going to go, well, okay, you know, I'll try that out. But what I've seen happen in the field is the experienced guy doesn't explain the context for how he got that extra value from that other tool. And this person over here spends the extra money on this other tool, and they really don't get anything different out of it.
Right. Well, and I think that's important too. I think you cannot underscore the importance enough of somebody who has experience to do the SEO, because that's the big challenge I think that comes up, is because people don't really have aptitude for it. They don't have the background or the aptitude to really understand what they're doing. There's just somebody said, hey, you need to go do this, and they go off and they do it. But you know, it's better to sort of ask the hard question, which is why, right? What's the point of doing this? What's the net value for doing this work and this effort? Is it going to give us an actionable list of tactics to employ?
Right.
You know, so I think that's the point. And I think you're saying that.
Right. Well, I mean, SEO experts will tell you, you know, a checklist of things to look for, and you go through your little checklist. I see a lot of people who go through the motions of doing checklist-based SEO, and there was always a reason to do the checklist. It was because as we learned more stuff, we kind of forgot some of the early stuff, and so we wrote it all down so that when we got into a new project, we would remember to do all that stuff. But we kind of understood why we were doing it, because we had to figure out how to do it to begin with. But now if you hand somebody a checklist of SEO tasks to do for a project, they don't really understand why they're doing it. There are a lot of school or classes available online through video, email, continuing ed courses. I mean, you know, a lot of people are teaching SEO now. There are absolutely no standards. These classes are all worthless, but they'll all basically tell you some sort of a checklist to go through, and how to do an audit, what tools, you know, you should use, and all this stuff. And it all sounds legitimate in a transparent way. But what they're all missing, what standards would give them, is a common frame of reference that everybody could compare to. And we would then understand why better. We would be able to teach better why you do these things. You shouldn't be doing things because somebody else got a benefit out of it. You should be doing things because the standards explain the benefit for everybody. And if there isn't a benefit for everybody, then the standards either have to qualify or disclaim that, or they should not include whatever the thing is, the task or the tool or whatever. And right now, SEO is largely a ripoff. I mean, there are a lot of good SEO providers who are providing good service. They're helping people grow their traffic and get out of penalties and all that stuff. And I'm not trash talking those people, but as an industry, search engine optimization sucks because it has no standards in the average consumer, whether it's a business decision maker hiring somebody or a small business owner trying to hire an agency or a big corporation trying to hire a bunch of agencies. They have nothing by which to judge the quality of the work that everybody is doing in this field. And that goes for the SEO tools. Take the link research that everybody does, okay? There are not that many reasons why we do link research. You do link research because you know you need links. Search engines are going to trust your site better if you have good links. Where do you get the links? Well, your competitors got links. Maybe that's a good place to start. And everybody goes there, okay? I've done it. You've done it. Everybody has gone and done it and looked at competitor links. You can't get every link that the competitor got. So that's kind of a limited thing. And so then you start thinking, well, maybe I can look at what other websites a little bit outside this niche are getting links from. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. You start pulling in all this link data, and it's not really actionable link data because it's just, if you get 10,000 pages that link to websites in some broad category, are you really going to send out 10,000 outreach emails? Only a spammer would do that. And so, there's limited value to link research tools because the diminishing returns just kill the value. If you're doing a penalty research, if you're trying to find out what links the search engine objects to, we've all done this. Randy and I have done this. You've done it. You get as many link tools together as you can. You go out and pull in as many links as you can, and then you go try and figure out which of these links are probably hurting the website. Well, what's the problem with gathering all that link data? You haven't vetted it against the search engine's index. And the problem, even if you could go check all those links to see if they're in the index, let's say that you gather 1,500 links, and of those 1,500 links, 300 are in the index. The other 1,200 links are not in the index. What does that mean? Is the search engine holding those other 1,200 links against the website because they're spammy? Did the search engine not find those other 1,200 links? Are those other 1,200 links out there waiting to be found and they're not spammy? I mean, you can't really, even if you gather the biggest list of links that you can and go check them all against the index, you still don't have anything truly actionable. It comes back down to the SEO evaluator's personal judgment and experience. And none of us is perfect. I mean, people have approached me and they've said, what do you think of this link? And I go, well, I don't see any problem with it. It's some blog or something like that somebody does on the weekends. And they go, but it's got an X value of 10, out of a scale of 50 or 100 or whatever. And they're obviously using some SEO tool that assigns their value. And they go, I don't like this X value. It's too low. That's a low quality website. And there's no reason to say that, because that's not what a search engine thinks is a low quality website. A search engine thinks it's a low quality website if it's there for the purpose of spam, or if it's so vague that it's not helpful. And that's what a low quality website is. A high quality website can have very few links pointing to it, and it's not going to rank well on a lot of these SEO metrics.
Agreed. So it's a vexing issue, right? It's a vexing problem, and I think part of the challenge that I have is that it's really difficult to justify paying for some of these tools when the accuracy is in question. I think you bring up a really good point about the fact that because of the addition of personalized search and search engines actually using search behavior to add another filter onto what they display, I think that really sort of throws a big wrench into how do you actually measure ranking? And it sort of takes the validity away from it. So I think there are problems, like you said, with actually trying to present a generic rank, right? So the idea is that if a person doesn't have any history, this is what will get displayed. But more and more people, they show up and they've got a history, and so Google's going to rearrange those pages, those search results, based on what they believe to be is true about the intent of that person. And like you said, sometimes they get it right, often they get it wrong.
Yeah.
But it does influence what gets displayed and what the order is that it gets displayed. So I think that's a huge problem with rank checking tools. I think it's interesting that some of them have auditing tools built into them, because I feel like the auditing tools use just such a small subset of what's important, and some of it's just, you're like, what? I don't think that's a problem.
There are some auditing functions that on a large website, they kind of make sense, like looking for duplicate meta tags. If you got 50,000 pages on your website, I would rather use an SEO tool to tell me that I've got duplicate meta tags and page titles.
Sure.
But then again, you can log into Search Console or Bing Webmaster Tools, and they might tell you that you have duplicate content on, in the titles and in the meta tags. Before I subscribe to an SEO tool, I would prefer to log into those Webmaster dashboards and see what they're telling me, because they're working with that data. Whereas at some point, you're going to have to find out what's indexed and what's not indexed. And it's at that point where you want to take the SEO tools and start running these low-hanging fruit analyses. Maybe you have duplicate meta tags and page titles on 10,000 pages, and that's why they're not indexed. And that's a problem that you would be able to identify if you could confirm that they're not indexed first. Indexation is a real big problem, and the SEO community has no way of handling that, because we don't have any reliable tools for checking, what's indexed. Now, some of the SEO tools that I used to evaluate, they would go out and they would try to see if a page was indexed in the search in like Google, but it took a long time the way they were doing it, and I don't know if they still do that. I haven't tried to run an indexation report in at least 4 or 5 years. Have you ever tried to use one?
Well, I've used site operators to sort of do my own index analysis, but if you got, like you said, if you got tens of thousands of pages, then you can't. It's not physically possible to do manually.
No, not from the root. Yeah,
not and get good data.
Yeah, it'll only show you at most 1,000 pages. You might have to click through jump through some SERP hoops to get to that 1,000th listing, or
Sure.
It may tell you there are 1,000 listings, only show you 789, and yet if you go look at the index report, it'll tell you it's got 22,000 pages indexed. And it doesn't really, the search engines don't tell you everything that they know. There's just no way that they can. Well, I don't know. I suppose they could, but there's no way that they're going to.
Right. No, they don't want to. They don't want to show their cards. That's known. I mean, it's funny because Google's crawlers are so sophisticated. They know pages are up. New pages are up almost immediately, but they don't tell you what they're going to pick and what they're not going to pick.
Yeah.
Right. And what they're going to sandbox and show.
What Randy and I do, and Randy does this more than I do, he'll go in and look at like 3 months worth of analytics data, and or 6 months. I think he prefers 6 months. Don't hold me to that. But so he goes in and he looks at the data. He knows how many pages are on the site, and he looks at the landing pages with search referral data. And he takes the difference, the pages that are not showing up in that landing page search referral report, and he goes and he looks at what kind of traffic those pages are getting. And if they're not getting any traffic at all, he'll move them, he'll improve them, or he'll delete them. And that's not something that I used to do a whole lot of. I used to do it differently, but I kind of like this, the way that Randy does it, because basically what he says is if the search engine is not sending traffic to the page, then there's something wrong with the page, right? And you've either got to fix the page or you've got to get rid of it so you don't worry about it anymore, okay? It's not that the page isn't worth saving. It's how valuable is your time versus how much time it's going to take to try to save that page.
Right.
And so if he's got a website that, and Randy and I both went, I mean, we have had tons and tons of websites for years. We both got hit by Panda back in the day. And we've spent a lot of years fixing these websites. We're to the point now where we can pretty much go in and fix a Panda site like that. And one of the options that he keeps on the table is if a website's got a lot of content on it and some significant portion of it is not getting any traffic anymore, he just gets rid of it because he knows it'll take a lot of time and effort to fix that content, and he can just create new content much more easily that he knows is going to be useful and interesting and helpful that the search engine will like.
That makes sense.
So, I mean, an SEO tool can kind of, if you have something to benchmark it against, an SEO tool can kind of give you the ability to do a gap analysis. And gap analysis SEO is probably the best spot that everybody wants to be in when it comes to doing real analysis. You've got these keywords covered, and you think you should be covering these keywords, but you're not getting traffic for them. So that's where you need to think about. You don't need to be thinking about these keywords. If you're number 5 for some highly competitive term, you're going to get a lot more value by looking down here than trying to push that one guy up to number 4, number 3, or God forbid, number 1. Of course, there's usually some vice president or business owner who's just got to have that number 1 position. But what I look at instead of rankings, and you do too, is how much traffic is coming from the search engine. Where's the traffic coming for, and where else do I think I can get it from? And I don't like going after highly competitive queries. It takes a lot more effort to get traffic out of highly competitive queries than it does out of the less competitive queries. So I don't know if that's what you had in mind when we began this discussion.
No, I think that's exactly what I was hoping for. I really wanted your perspective on it, and to sort of give our audience a little sense for what our thought process is around understanding what performance measures are in place and how do we measure those performance measures. Is there a tool that can help us to do that? I think that's really what it comes down to, is people want to be able to see performance, right?
Yes.
Whether it's good or bad, that will help them to do that. Good news is that, for the most part, Google Analytics and Google Webmaster Tools and Bing Webmaster Tools, they can actually give you a certain level of security that you're getting what they're working with the data that the search engine's actually working with, as opposed to working with a third-party tool where they're, either doing their own scraping or making their own assumptions, right?
Yes.
So the best thing for these tools to do is to suck in your data, use their own data, and correlate those two together to make sure that they're actually seeing a picture that includes sort of what Google's seeing and what Google's using, as well as their sort of third-party scraping technology.
I think that sums it up.
And I don't think any of them do that well, by the way. I don't think any of them do that well. Some of them include that capability to suck in that data, others do not. And I think it's frustrating at best, and it's totally demoralizing at worst, right? To have people figure out what their performance levels are, and certainly create and then measure against benchmarks.
I've been using SEO tools for years, and I'm not going to stop using them, but I don't really like them because of these inadequacies. So we've used up our 30 minutes, a little bit extra. So I guess that was a good topic. And I'll try and get this up in a few days. It's been taking 2 weeks lately, I know, but I've been busy. Kent's been busy. At any rate, thanks for picking the topic. At least you got me going.
Well, you were very animated today. I love it.
I hope everybody else does. So we'll try and do this again next week, folks. Hopefully you're getting something from these videos. Thanks for watching.
Yep. Thanks for watching, and thanks for taking the time to, learn more about SEO.